Let's talk in this video specifically about blood sugar. What I'm about to tell you is going to apply across the board for all the conditions that we work with, especially, diabetes, insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, but this also applies to neuropathy. This applies to autoimmune conditions. This applies to childhood developmental disorders as well. So this is a very, very important concept that you need to understand. And that is your body, especially your brain, needs two things to survive. It needs fuel and it needs activation. The fuel is going to come from glucose and oxygen. The activation comes from your everyday sensory experience and what we do and what we feel around us. So at its very, very core, this circle here represents a cell. Okay, your body is made up of trillions of cells. Those cells all need fuel so that they can produce energy, so they can produce protein, so they can do the job that they're supposed to do to keep our bodies in what's known as homeostasis, which basically means everything's happy and healthy. When the cells start to break down, then a series of cells that breaks down that forms a tissue. That tissue starts to get disease, or starts to decrease its function. If it's a lot of that tissue, it makes up an organ. If that organ is decreasing its function, you end up with a disease. And unfortunately, in our culture, when you end up with a disease, you're going to end up with medications for symptoms rather than rolling it back and looking at the root cause. So that's really what we're talking about here. All right, so if this is a cell, then inside of your cell is a little factory. You like my artwork? This is actually a building. These are smokestacks. That's a little window, I know. Hey, this factory is going to take glucose and oxygen from the blood supply. It's going to run it through its machinery, and it's going to spit out at the other end energy. Literal electric shock that happens that gives your body energy, and it's the form of energy that we're talking about here is called ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, and then your cell kicks out the waste products, which is cleaned by liver, kidneys, and you get rid of it. So how does this all play a role? So if we're talking specifically about blood sugar disorders, basically what happens is we have a breakdown in how the glucose actually enters the cells. And 85% of the conditions that we see here come down to what I call glucose resistance. Not insulin resistance, glucose resistance. For whatever reason, the glucose can't enter the cell, and there's a lot of different variations of how that happens. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on the insulin receptor. Insulin is a hormone that is secreted by your pancreas. It's a chemical signal for your body to store energy. Hey, so when this receptor is working the way it should, it's like the door handle on a door. Insulin will grab the glucose, take it to the door, open the handle, open the door, stick the glucose on inside, and close the door behind it. When that breaks down, you can't open that door anymore, so glucose is going to stay out in the bloodstream where it's going to get turned into triglycerides and fat. Let that sink in for a minute. Okay? So we need to focus on a couple things here. Getting these insulin receptors to be more efficient is where the bread and butter is, excuse the pun. So the more we're learning, the more we're understanding that type 2 diabetes is nothing more than an autoimmune attack on the actual insulin receptor. So the foods that we're eating from the standard American diet are causing our immune systems to attack here. Plus, if we're eating tons and tons of sugar, it's like these cells stop listening anyway. So if you look at that from two different angles, there's two different angles that you can help deal with that. So at the end of the day, what we want to look at is the stressors. Why is this cell under stress? Because when it's under stress, it's going to stop using glucose the way that it should. It becomes glucose resistant. So we got to start peeling back the layers of the onion here and taking away some of these stressors. So number one is going to be food. This is where we're going to focus. This is where we can help you the most. What foods are you eating that are causing your immune system to go haywire and make it so your insulin receptors don't work? The perfect example is just last night I got a picture from a patient, and I'll throw the picture in here. It was a bottle of a sports drink, and I don't remember which one, but the ingredients of the sports drink, it was a sugar-free sports drink. She's like, well, why did I drink this and my blood sugar shot up? It was sugar-free. Well, the chemicals that are in there are going to cause the stress that tells the cells to shut off, and they're not going to accept glucose. Plus, when your brain senses sweet, it can't tell the difference between sucralose or sugar, so you're going to get the same response anyway. So we have to talk about food sensitivities. Gluten, soy, dairy, corn can all do these things. We want to see if there's underlying food sensitivities that are causing your blood sugar to go up, which there are. We just got to figure out which ones they are. Your environment can play a huge role in this. It is no secret that our environment's full of chemicals and electromagnetic radiation and all sorts of other things that can actually cause this to happen. And there's ways to combat against that, like earthing. That's why your friend is, I have a studio audience today. That's why your friend is earthing. Hey, let's give you one more dose of that. I should pan over there. Someone's getting the laser on their brain. Hey, number 3 is chemical. The chemicals that we have in our common everyday household cleaners are making it so they're screwing up our hormone system. And guess what insulin is? It's a hormone. So if you're filling your house full of cleaners and candles and fragrances that have all these chemicals in them, it's going to cause a reaction so that your body can't break those down. Emotional plays a role. Hey, some of my friends actually think that 70% of blood sugar issues are from emotional issues and mindset. Hey, because we develop these negative mindsets, it's going to affect the rest of our body. And then lastly, there are medications that can disrupt this as well. So if we really want to get control of this and get on top of this, you have to understand there's a lot to do. Start with food, start peeling the layers of the onion back. That's why we're here. We're here to help you. So hope this makes sense to you. Please feel free to ask questions. Love to answer those for you in subsequent videos or in the comments below. So thank you. Talk to you soon.